Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The scheduled creations and annihilations take place in terms of the supreme will. There are other creations due to interactions of material elements which take place by the intelligence of Brahma. Later, these will be more explicitly explained. At present, only preliminary information is given. The three kinds of annihilations are, number one, due to the scheduled time of the annihilation of the entire universe. Number two, due to a fire which emanates from the mouth of Ananta. And number three, due to one's qualitative actions and reactions. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. This is quite a technical portion of the Bhagavatam which describes the different kinds of creations in this material world. Creation means material world. There is no creation in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, there is no creation, there is no destruction, there is no maintenance. Everything is eternal. Everything is permanent. Everyone is permanent. So, the first difference we should understand between this material world and spiritual world. In the material world, there is constant activity of creation, maintenance, destruction, continuously going on. Just like you have experience that different living entities have different lifespan. So different lifespan means their duration of life is different. It's not the same. Human being lives for an average of 100 years. But dogs, they live for about 15 years, 20 years. Cows also about the same. Then there are ants which live for just few days. And then there are small microbes which live for few hours or not even that much. Some minutes. So continuously this creation, maintenance, destruction is going on. Now how is it happening? So to understand the working of this material nature, the scientists, they have no understanding of this working of material nature. Because they have no understanding of God. Very simple. Behind this whole creation, in the background, there is God, Krishna. They have no understanding of Krishna. They have no knowledge of Krishna. They have no way of seeing or understanding the working of this nature by the arrangement, superior arrangement of God, Krishna. They have no idea. So they can never understand how this material nature is working. They can never understand. So here in the Bhagavatam, because this is transcendental knowledge, knowledge given by Krishna, and knowledge which is understood by the devotees, because devotees are engaged in spiritual practice. This knowledge can be understood only by spiritual practice, otherwise not possible. Just like there are three gunas, Sattva guna, Rajo guna, Tamo guna. Who can understand? Not the materialists. Materialists can never understand what is this guna. This is how material nature is acting by a force. Just like our body, we are forced to change the body. Can somebody stop aging of the body? You can never stop. Never stop. Whatever they do. There is one whole research going on. Medical science, gerontology. They are researching why somebody becomes old. Why this body is becoming old. Because nobody likes to become old. Old age means so many problems. Invalidity, senses are not strong, digestion is not proper, so many problems. So how to stop this aging? They are trying to find out. But what they can't understand is this body is being acted upon by these three gunas. Sattva guna, Rajo guna, Tamo guna is working on this body, acting on this body, forcing the change. We are forced to become old. Nobody wants to become old. We are forced to die. Nobody wants to die. So this force, they can never understand if they don't practice spiritual life. As soon as somebody practices spiritual life and surrenders to Krishna, immediately it becomes very clear. What is clear? I am not this body. I am eternal spirit soul. This body is simply one dress, that's all. Temporary dress. I really should not be too much worried about this body. As long as the body is there, some care is required, some maintenance is required. But otherwise, I am not this body. I have got a eternal spiritual form in the spiritual world. That is where I belong. Everyone belongs to the spiritual world. Everyone has got a spiritual form. That form is eternally youthful. That form, there is no death. So unless this understanding is there, we cannot understand the working of the nature, how nature is working. So in the Bhagavatam, all this is very nicely explained. Now Vidura is asking a question from Maitreya. There is a conversation between Vidura and Maitreya, this chapter. So Vidura is asking Maitreya how this creation takes place. What are the different sequence in which different things happen at the beginning of the creation? So at the beginning of the creation, there is simply some material energy and the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is there as Mahavishnu, and then there is the material energy. That energy, first of all, Mahavishnu is glancing on energy, by which there are different kinds of changes that take place in the material energy. Those changes are described as different kinds of creations. So the first, there are 9 different kinds of creations. Some are creations due to the influence of the Supreme Lord Himself. And then some other creations take place by the intelligence of Brahma. Brahma, as the creator, he also does some work of creation. But that is after the Supreme Lord has done his work of creation. Of course, Supreme Lord doesn't have to work. He simply has to glance, that's all. He just has to glance. By his glance, by his looking, by his drishti, whole material energy becomes activated, and first thing that happens is these 3 gunas are generated. And those 3 gunas result in this material energy itself becoming active. So that is explained, the 9 different kinds of creations. I will read what are the 9 different kinds of creations. The first kind of creation, of the 9 creations, the first one is the creation of the Mahat Tattva, or the sum total of the material ingredients. All the material ingredients are there in what is called as Mahat Tattva. And these material ingredients, in the material ingredients, there is the action of the 3 gunas due to the presence of the Supreme Lord. Now the gunas are working because of the presence of the Supreme Lord. In the second division of creation, there is the false ego which is generated. False ego is ahankara. Ahankara is generated in the second division of creation. What is that ahankara? In which the material ingredients, material knowledge and material activities arise. In this ahankara, there are three material ingredients, material knowledge and material activities. Now in the purport, Prabhupada explains this material ingredients are the Pancha Mahabhuta, earth, water, fire, air, sky. And the material knowledge, jnana, indicates the senses which are the sources of knowledge and their controlling deities. Just like we get knowledge from the outside world through the five senses we have. We have eyes through which we see. Seeing means getting the idea of the form. Hearing means getting an idea of what that object is. In fact, scriptures say, by hearing, we are able to understand a description of the object. Just like we say, this is called table. Now what is this table itself is a sound. It's a particular sound. Table. Now we produce that sound, no, using our tongue. Table. But when I say table, you understand some object called table. When I say table, you understand it's an object called table. So actually, the description of everything in the material world is just by sound. That is what is described as Shruti, the Vedas. By sound, there is a description of everything in this world. Formerly, there was no written book. No written book. No printing. It was only through speaking and hearing the knowledge was actually disseminated. Knowledge was transmitted. So the guru will speak and the shishya or the student will hear. Why guru shishya? Even when a child is born, do you teach the child first to read and write a language? No. Child just hears and repeats, and that's how the child learns. Any language, anybody learns, any part of the world, the same way. So child will ask father or mother, what is this? Mother will say, this is table. Child will say, this is table. Over, finished. Regarding material objects, there is no need for any research, any big education, nothing is required. It is simply hearing and learning. Hearing from the right source, of course. So, this is jnana through the senses, sense of hearing, sense of seeing. The child will see the table and ask the mother or father, what is this? Correct? So, the parents will explain, this is table, that is chair, that is wall, something like that. So, seeing, hearing, then the organ of speech, speaking. Of course, speaking is not in this category of getting knowledge. Getting knowledge, we have these five senses, jnanendriya. So, jnana, material knowledge, means the five senses through which we acquire knowledge. The eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the sense of touch. And their controlling deities, this is all controlled. Because, as you are aware, the eyes we can see only if there is light. Light is controlled by the sun god. By the sun god. So that is how we actually are able to see, because there is light. If there is no light, we cannot see. The ultimate source of all light in this world is the sun. Even if there is light from the moon or fire or electricity, it is because of the sun only. So, jnana indicates the senses which are the sources of knowledge and their controlling deities. Work entails the working organs and their controlling deities. Work, some material activity. How does activity take place? Because of the hands, legs, movement. That's how work happens. So, we are using our hands or we are using our legs. We are using our organ of speech for speaking. This is also work, action. So, this action takes place because of the senses we have, senses of action. And also because of the controlling deity. There is a controlling deity for the hand. There is a controlling deity for the leg. Devatas, they control. So all these are generated in the second creation. Of course, hand we understand something like this part of the body. But it is not just the gross part of the body that is the hand. The ability to hold, the ability to move, that is different. That ability is different. Just like they do some transplant for somebody whose hand is amputated, they do some transplant. They give a artificial hand. But that hand is useless. It is just there, that's all. It is not useful for holding, for touching. No use. It is simply one dead object, that's all. It's like the hand of a doll. No use. It's not useful as a hand. So similarly, the actual hand is different from what we see as the hand. Just like somebody gets some nervous problem, then they cannot move their fingers, they cannot hold, the grip won't be there. That is what is called as the hand. The ability to hold, grip, to move, to work, or the legs also, the same thing. So, this working organs or working senses, karmendriya, that is also generated in the second division of creation. Then in the third division, there are the sense perceptions. Sense perception means, just like the eyes can see what is called as form. Now the forms themselves are actually called tanmatra, the object for the senses. Form is called object of the sense of seeing. Sound is called object of the sense of hearing. Unless there is sound, there is no use of the ear. Unless there is form, there is no use of the eyes. Correct? If you go to some place where there is a desert, let us say, there is only sand, everywhere you see only sand. You can't make out any form. So what does the sense of sight, how does it help you? What knowledge will you get out of the sense of sight? If you're only seeing water in the ocean, middle of the ocean somebody goes, only see water everywhere. Or on the land, in the desert, middle of the desert, only sand everywhere. Either you see on top, you see the sky, or you see down below, you see only sand. That's all. So this sense of seeing, unless there is some form, it is useless. You understand? Similarly, sound. At night, it is completely dark. Not only dark, there is no sound. So the sense of hearing is no use. If there is no sound, there is no use. Only if there is sound, then you are able to understand something, know something, discern something. Only if there is form, you can discern, can get some knowledge. So these sense objects are also important. They are also created in the third creation. And the fourth creation is the creation of knowledge and of working capacity. Knowledge is that knowledge of these objects by the sense perception. Just like knowledge of form, knowledge of taste, knowledge of sound, knowledge of smell, knowledge of touch. This knowledge, sense perception, and working capacity, the ability to work with the hands, legs, to speak through the organ of speech. This working capacity is the fourth creation. The senses are there, but the ability to use the senses, the ability, just like these eyes, there is a whole arrangement that the eyes are connected to the nervous system through some optic nerve, and then there is this retina, and there is one, cornea. So many parts are there of this eye. It's a whole arrangement for seeing. If anything in the arrangement is not working, person is blind, cannot see. Is it not? So that creation of this whole arrangement to be able to see, that happens in the fourth division. The creation of the knowledge which is acquired through the senses and the working capacity. Then the fifth creation is of the controlling deities by the interaction of the mode of goodness, of which the mind is the sum total. Now the deities are there for controlling every single sense, the knowledge acquiring senses, Jnanendriya, the eyes, the ears, the nose, all these are controlled by deities, devatas. And even the hands, legs, the voice, everything is controlled by other devatas. So these devatas are belonging to the fifth division of creation. They are also generated out of, at the time of creation, at the beginning of creation. And the sixth creation is the ignorant darkness of the living entity by which the master acts as fool. There is a certain action of the material energy by which we forget who we are. We are actually spirit soul. But we forget we are the spirit soul. We forget who is Krishna. We forget that I am spiritual by nature. And then we start identifying with the body which we have as I am this body. I belong to this world. I was born on such and such a date, whatever. So all this happens because of this sixth creation called ignorant darkness, avidya. It's called avidya. So that is explained by Prabhupada in the purport, that avidya is energy of the Lord, which is the bewildering factor of the conditioned souls. The material nature is called avidya, but the devotees of the Lord in pure devotional service, they are not in avidya. If somebody is engaged in bhakti, pure bhakti, then this avidya becomes vidya, pure knowledge. Ignorance is gone. When somebody engages in devotional service, ignorance is gone. What happens? This Mahamaya transforms into Yogamaya. This material energy acts spiritually. The material nature therefore appears to function in three phases. One is as the creative principle of the material world. Material nature is acting as the creative principle because of the three gunas. Then material nature is functioning as ignorance. Material nature covers the real knowledge of every living being. And material nature also works as vidya, knowledge, real knowledge, pure knowledge. So this avidya cannot act on devotees, on those who are engaged in pure devotional service. This avidya cannot act. But everybody else is cheated, is fooled, is bewildered, is misled. Just like because of avidya, everybody is thinking I am the body. But we are not the body. We are different from the body. But even though we are different from the body, everybody thinks in terms of the body. So because of that, what happens? They think at the time of death, everything is finished. At the time of death, everything is finished. I am finished at the time of death. No. Actually, we are forced to leave this body and enter another body. It's happening at the time of death. That is because of avidya. That is because of ignorance. So, this ignorance can be removed only by devotional service, only by bhakti. Only by bhakti. So, that is explained here that avidya is generated in the sixth creation of this 9 divisions of creation. Now the 7th, 8th and 9th are creations by Brahma. The 7th, 8th and 9th division of creations are by Brahma. Then also in this 14th verse, it is explained that there are 3 kinds of Trividaha Pratisankramaha, 3 kinds of annihilation or destruction. Destruction also is by higher arrangement. What are the 3 kinds of destruction? The first one is due to eternal time, Kala. Kala is continuously destroying whatever is created. That is due to the Kala only. Ultimately, the whole universe is going to be destroyed. Entire universe is going to be destroyed at the end of a certain time. That time is the measurement of what is called as universal time. There is atomic time, very, 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 very small increment of time. And there is universal time. Universal time is the duration of the whole universe, or the lifetime of Brahma. He lives the longest. Brahma lives the longest. So, lifetime of Brahma, universal time, that is when, end of Brahma's life, everything will be destroyed. That will happen due to the schedule of time, Kala. Second is due to fire which emanates from the mouth of Ananta. At the bottom of the universe, there is one incarnation of Krishna called Ananta Shesha. This Ananta Shesha is in the form of a snake with many, many hoods. He is also called Sahasranana, 1,000 hoods. 1,000 hoods. So he emits one fire from his mouth, from his many mouths, and that fire blazes the whole universe. So that annihilation is the second kind of annihilation that takes place. Nothing can be surviving when that fire from Ananta's mouth comes out. Nothing will survive. Everything will be burnt completely. Then the third one is due to one's own qualitative actions and reactions. Just like we do some activity, material activity, then there is reaction from material nature. That reaction from material nature is generally in the form of something which is destroyed because of the action of the 3 gunas. Always reaction is because of these 3 gunas interacting, and that will deteriorate something material. So nothing material will remain because of one's qualitative actions and reactions. So continuously destruction is happening due to this action and reaction, and at a certain time, end of Brahma's day, the middle and lower planetary systems are destroyed, And at the end of Brahma's life, everything is destroyed. The whole universe is destroyed. So these are the three kinds of destruction that is taking place. So that is also explained here. So this is, of course, a very brief description here. More details will be given in the later chapters. Later chapters, Maitreya will describe in more detail. So I'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.